Hello and welcome back to the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. I'm Isaiah and I'm here to break down this weekend's race at Bristol. Now, it's not like a normal Bristol race because they've covered the track up in dirt. We are doing a dirt track race at Bristol Motor Speedway. Am I a big fan of these events? I think that they should just use a normal dirt track or not do it at all. But I don't make those decisions, so we're here to talk about this race anyway. We're also going to talk a little bit about Bet365 and a little bit about Odd Shopper Insider Access, which is the only way to get access to my full betting card, which, if you had access to it last weekend, you would have made a lot of money. We got Kyle Larson at 13-2 for Richmond. We got a Kyle Larson head-to-head bet at plus 125. And we also almost hit a 9-1 in the Truck Series. If Nick Sanchez hadn't gotten crashed on the last lap, that would have been great. But oh well, you can't win them all. Before we get into the picks for this weekend, I want to talk a little bit about the track and the event itself. This is the Food City Dirt Race. We're obviously at Bristol, which is a 1/2 mile dirt oval. Well, when it's covered in dirt. There are no true Cup comparators because the Cup Series does not run any other dirt race. There are some other comparators to a degree because it's a short track, but I don't really put too much stock in that. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but not a ton. They run an entirely separate package at this track, uniquely built for dirt tracks. So that's why there's not really a true comparator. And fortunately, unlike last year, there's no rain in the forecast. So we aren't going to have to deal with delays and mud, which should be good. And I think it should improve the racing product significantly. Lastly, before we get into the picks, I need to talk about Bet365. They are running an awesome promotion right now where you can bet $1 and you'll get $200 back in bonus site credits. I think that's a fantastic deal. That means you can place a safe line and get your money back and then have $200 in bonus bets to mess around with on NASCAR. I know that our banner says that it is 365, but they recently changed that number. So keep that in mind when you're signing up for Bet365. Great. Let me pull up the odds board over there. So these are the odds for this weekend's NASCAR race at Bristol Dirt. You'll see a familiar face in the top slot. It's Kyle Larson at plus 475. He's actually going to be our first pick this weekend, too, after he won for us at Richmond. However, we're not going to play this number at Bet365 because this is by far the shortest number I've seen available. Instead, we're going to play the 11-2, which is plus 550 at DraftKings. So the logic here is very simple. Kyle Larson is an exceptional dirt track racer, and dirt track racers excelled on Bristol Dirt last year. Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe, who, as you can tell, are 4th and 2nd in the odds board, were on pace to win the race. Reddick was leading. Briscoe was chasing him down. And then they wrecked each other in the last corner of last year's event, and Kyle Busch stole the win. So it was tough for dirt track racers then. It was even tougher for dirt track racers in 2021 because Bristol Dirt was not really anything like a real dirt track then. It didn't have like smoothed out progressive banking. And it also used dirt from a bunch of different areas that had not been mixed together. Fortunately, that is no longer the case. They had to mix all the dirt together after they were cleaning up the first event here. And so now it's all back in a bunch. And yes, that means that they have been using the same dirt for the last 2 years, which might be a fun fact for those of you all following along at home. But we're targeting Larson because dirt track racers should do well on dirt tracks, and I think Larson is the best dirt track racer in the field. He is the 2021 Knoxville Nationals winner, and he is the 2020 and 2021 Chili Bowl Nationals winner. Those are some of the biggest events in dirt track racing. That leads me to believe that Larson is probably the best dirt track racer in the field because no one else has his resume. He is an unparalleled in the Cup Series as far as dirt track racers go. I think he should obviously be the favorite. I'm a little bit surprised that the plus 550 is still available at DraftKings. I hit that. It's at 5-1 everywhere else, and there's obviously the plus 475 here at Bet365. The other reasons why we're targeting Larson this weekend: one, despite the fact that he didn't win last year's race at Bristol Dirt, he recorded the best driver rating here, and that was despite Hendrick kind of struggling on shorter tracks. Hendrick is no longer struggling on shorter tracks. Larson dominated at both Phoenix and Richmond. He obviously won at Richmond. He also led the most laps at Phoenix. So I'm all over Larson this weekend. Our next pick. We're going to stick with the theme of dirt track racers, and we're going to talk a little bit about Christopher Bell. So Christopher Bell, it's the same logic as with the Larson pick. Bell is the second best dirt racer in the field. He has won the 2017, 2018, and 2019 Chili Bowl Nationals. So he actually won these before Larson did, despite the fact that he's a little bit younger than Larson. He also recorded the 5th best driver rating here back in 2022. So not quite as dominant as Larson, but still a very solid and strong showing. Further, he was the top Toyota by driver rating at both Phoenix and Richmond this year. I know that Tyler Reddick had a really strong running going, I think, back in Phoenix, but he didn't really follow it up in Richmond. Bell was consistently solid at both events, so we're going to target him. There's the 13-2 available at Bet365, but you can get the 7-1 available via BetMGM. Obviously, that's a better number. It's a better deal. You should play it there instead. And one final note that I have to make with Larson and Bell is one of the things that I like to do when I'm betting on NASCAR is I look at the sharp books to see what they have as prices out there. Bovada opened their markets in advance of every domestic U.S. book, and Larson and Bell are the co-favorites over there, yet Bell is a longer shot than Reddick over here and at most places. So I think Bell has a lot of value relative to the price that you're going to get him at. And Larson at plus 550 is a very solid deal as well over at DraftKings. Alrighty. Before we get into our long shot, because we have to have a long shot for this race, I want to talk a little bit about OddsShopper Insider Access. It is a fantastic program where you can gain access to almost all of our betting exports via a premium Discord. That means that you get access to us to have office hours. You can ask us questions. You'll get access to live bets. You'll see the bets as soon as we place them posted in the picks channel. You'll also get access to some of my favorite things, like I post an NFL betting model during the NFL season in there. Pretty profitable last year. You'll get all sorts of stuff like that to tail. It's a blast. You'll also get to engage with other people who are tailing our bets, which is really what seals the deal for me, is sweating out bets with some other people. And you can also get your first week of access for 50% off. And after that, it's just $19.95. So come on in, get your discounted first week, win all the money you need to pay for the rest of it, and then just keep making money with us and use a little bit of that to pay for the Discord. I think it's a great deal. Let's talk about our last pick, our long shot. It's going to be Todd Gilliland. And I will forgive you if you've never even considered betting on him before, because he is very much a long shot. If you look down the board at Bet365, he is clearly at 80-1. That obviously is a pretty long price, but it's not nearly the longest on the market. You can get Todd Gilliland at 200-1 at DraftKings still. That is a steal. Now, obviously, he's not like the greatest driver or the best chance of winning the race, but a price like 200-1 is pretty hard to turn down. Gilliland actually won at Knoxville in the Truck Series in 2022. He did so after leading 58 laps and a solid run. I think he had the second or the third best driver rating to only Stuart Friesen. He also finished P4 in the Truck Series at Bristol Dirt last year. So he's put together some solid runs in the trucks at dirt tracks. Well, that same thing can't be said for the Cup Series, as he only finished 17 here last year. I still think that there's a bit of value, especially when you're getting him at 200-1. The other thing to note is that his team, Front Row Racing, has looked very solid this year. They've racked up 2 top 10s and 6 top 15s so far this season. And Gilliland has been contributing to that run. Like, I think he has 1 top 10 and 2 or 3 top 15s, counting that top 10, obviously. So he's been pretty solid this year, speed-wise. I like him to get a top 10 here as well. I think there's a bit more value on those markets, or at least there was earlier. He opened at 10-1 to get a top 10 at FanDuel this morning, which I slammed. And now that is down to plus 250. You can get the plus 275 at Bet365. That's an okay deal. It's not nearly as great as what we got this morning, which I did post in the OddsShopper Discord, if you're wondering, as soon as I saw it. So not as great of a deal. It's still a good deal. I don't think there's as nearly as much value, obviously, but it's still a solid bet. Plus 275 odds are reasonably solid for a driver who has, I think, realistically a 20 to 25% chance of getting a top 10 if you factor in hold. So it's solid. Not nearly as good of a play as obviously the one we got earlier. I'm going to stop repeating that point at this point. I just wanted to hammer the fact down that you could have gotten access to the 10-1 if you were in our Discord. So there are some upsides to it, especially if you're a NASCAR bettor. Great. Let's recap. So we're going to have 2 favorites on our betting card. We're going to have Kyle Larson at 11-2 at DraftKings. We're going to have Christopher Bell 7-1 at BetMGM. And then we're going to have our long shot Todd Gilliland, which is 200-1 at DraftKings. I still think that's a great deal. I will be shocked, I say, if that number is if that number stays there through the rest of the week. Alrighty, that concludes our video. Please like and subscribe if you thought this content was useful. It's always been a pleasure. I'll see you next weekend, and let's hope that we can make a little bit more money after our big day at Richmond last week. I'll see you next week.